Hi, I'm Sid. I recently graduated from college and now work as a software engineer. As someone who has applied to hundreds of software engineering internships, attended numerous interviews, and had my fair share of rejections, I've learned a lot from the past several years. Here's the most effective strategy that I would pursue if I were to go back in time and prepare for an interview for a software engineering internship. Let's say, for example, I'm interviewing with Facebook. The first thing I want to do is find out what type of questions to expect from Facebook. And you can use Glassdoor, Reddit. If none of these links appear, you can simply Google common Facebook software engineering internship interview questions. But let's say we do have a Glassdoor link available. So I'll go on that Glassdoor link, and here I can see past entries from previous students who have actually interviewed with Facebook and given their direct insight into what the interview process was like. I'll see what type of questions they were asked, what categories each of these questions belong to, and that will directly help me prepare for what type of questions to expect during the actual interview. Now that we know what type of interview questions Facebook generally likes to ask, we need to actually practice answering these questions while writing real code. These two websites have a ton of common interview questions and allow you to submit your code for immediate feedback. I personally like LeetCode more, but HackerRank should also get the job done. We saw in Glassdoor that dynamic programming and depth-first search questions were asked in the past, so we can focus on these categories for now. I'll read the problem description, choose what coding language I want, and then start practicing. I personally find the non-coding technical questions to be the most difficult because nobody really tells you to prepare for these general technical questions, and LeetCode and HackerRank don't really address them either. I've been asked questions like, tell me about the difference between types of virtual machines. What happens when you type google.com in your browser? Draw the system architecture for cloud computing. Tell me about time and space complexity, multi-threading and locks, and there's many more topics that have come up in these interviews. My advice would be to look at your class notes for any data structures, algorithms, computer systems, operating systems, compilers, networking, distributed systems, and security classes that you have taken. Which type of questions and which class notes to study might depend on the company, the team that's interviewing you, and if it's a specific position you've applied to. But if it's a generic internship and you've never taken any of these classes, I wouldn't worry. I would simply look up crash courses on data structures and algorithms because it's most likely you'll be tested on material from this subject area. From my experience, you will mainly be asked questions based on your resume content as well. So make sure you have a deep understanding of all the material on your resume. If you say you took an operating systems class and you say you did a virtual machine project on your resume, but you don't seem to know much about these topics during the actual interview, it'll look a lot worse than someone who didn't have these topics to begin with on their resume. The most common behavioral questions I've been asked are, tell me about a time you had to resolve a conflict between team members, a time where you had to make a decision but there wasn't enough information available, a time where you failed and what lessons you learned from that experience, a time when you had to face some challenge and how you overcame that challenge, and a time you exhibited leadership in the past. I wouldn't think too much about this category, only if you have time after the first 3 steps in this plan. They don't really care that much about your social or behavioral skills. It's one of the nice things about being a software engineer that we're all pretty introverted. During behavioral questions, as long as you seem like a nice person and they're not an you'll probably pass. If you want to project confidence, feel free. Just make sure it doesn't border on arrogance. That said, still have 2 to 4 stories prepared that address these topics. Don't memorize every detail, just have the one-line summary memorized, and during the actual interview you can obviously expand and dive deeper than the one-line premise. But this can be done naturally, as opposed to preparing every single word that you'll say. During the interview, you'll anyways have to tackle questions that you're unprepared with, so it's important to cultivate the skill of improvising in unfamiliar, uncomfortable territory. It's just not realistic to memorize a script for every possible question. That concludes the 4-step game plan that will greatly maximize your chances of landing an offer after the interview. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit like, comment, and subscribe. I still have 0 subscribers, so if you were to become my first subscriber, it will definitely mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching.